here we go. First long form video. I've been wanting to do long form content for ages, and we're finally getting there, which is super cool and super exciting because I feel like you can say a lot more. Having been being an introvert, it is super hard to get everything that you want to say out in short form content, and it's nice to have a platform that allows you to deep dive on subjects and actually take pauses and think, what should I say next? So it's cool, and I'm excited for this. If you have been watching my short form content, you would know that a bit about my story and how I'm trying to really push this whole non-hustle life and really just building art within your content and really just focusing on making your content an expression of yourself. And if that means hustle, working hard life, then that's amazing. Do that. But for me, it is about taking things slow, really enjoying the present moment that I'm in and not worrying about what's coming in the future and what's happened in the past, and just really being present with my content and present with myself and my family. So it's cool to be on this journey and be able to document this journey with you guys. Yeah, but I suppose to understand how this transition away from wielding things into existence, you've got to understand the whole story. So we're going to go back a bit to my childhood and get a little vulnerable, I suppose, not too vulnerable, but a little bit of vulnerable, and just so you understand how because it hasn't always been the hustle life for me. It hasn't always been about this slow being a magnet type life. It was for a very long time, up until about 6 months ago. It was hustle, my hustle, hustle. So yeah, okay. So if we go back, we'll call this chapter one. There's going to be four chapters. Chapter one's going to be chasing the hustle. Chapter chapter two will be hustle to intuition. Sorry, hustle to intention. And then chapter three will be building this into a brand. And then chapter four will be future, what's sort of next for myself and where I want to take this. So starting with the beginning, chapter one, we I grew up in a little town down in the South Island of New Zealand, and I was raised by a single mum with four kids, and that was awesome. Like, my mum is beautiful. She's like a blimmin' earth angel, and very early on, I saw my representation of working was work hard. Like, my mum was the hardest worker you'll ever meet, and you had to have been raising four kids. And so I saw that as a representation of, okay, if I work hard, I can get these things. And that only became more when I found early on that I was just naturally good at rugby, and so I focused a ton of my time on rugby. I wanted to be a professional rugby player, and I suppose I was on track to be a professional rugby player, but it wasn't in the cards for me. But very early on, I saw that if I worked hard, I got way better at rugby than everyone else. And so this is where it started. Um, this whole like, oh, if I work, then I'm going to get things. Um, and just starting out, I'm a kid, I'm like, what, 14, 13 at this stage. And so I threw myself into that and gained a lot of benefit from it and a lot of opportunities, you know um, that came through my way, just based off this, like, oh yeah, if I work harder than everyone else, I get more than everyone else. And then when I was about to leave school, everyone was shooting off to uni, and I wanted to go into the army because it's been a family tradition for a few generations to go into the New Zealand Army. And so I remember applying for it and being like, everyone in the army is like a hard worker. And so if I go into the army, I'm going to get this really good work ethic. And the army for me was beautiful. Oh, we did some awesome stuff. But thing and that, like, it's so funny that I was like, yeah, I'm gonna get that skill, and then that'll be part of the journey to then when I want to like own businesses and run massive companies and stuff. That'll be a real foundational skill, and it was. Um, but aside from that, like going to the army, learning all this, all these skills that like I didn't even know the difference between a spanner and a wrench and like the different types of tools and stuff. Like I had no one to teach me that when I was young. So I was just out here. Like I remember doing a bit of like labor work in my like sixth and seventh form, and they're like, grab me the Phillips head screwdriver, and I'm like, which one? Which one is that? They're like, oh, we just grab the wrench, and I'm like, still don't know. And that's quite like as a kid and as a boy, a male growing up, that's hard to have like people, you know, learning how to drive cars when they're like 12 and I learned when I was like 17, you know, just because you don't have someone being like, and also like backing a trailer. Like I didn't learn that until the army, but everyone was like, "Oh, you back a trailer, pull the jet skis up, chuck them in the lake," and I'm like, "I can't. I don't know how to back a trailer," and so you miss out on these things. And so the army for me gave me those skills that should have been taught by a dad, but it's cool now because I can teach my sons, and that's awesome. And I love that, and I can also say, like, yeah, I taught myself, and I think that's pretty cool. But anyway, so this skill that I learned, like, and I saw the evidence of working hard within the army. Like we'd wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning and not be done till like 10, 12 at night. And it was wicked, and we got really good at things. And yeah, it paid a lot of dividends. So there was more evidence of this, like work hard, um, receive benefit. And then when it was time to leave the army and I was going into university, I was like, sweet, I'll carry that same sort of work ethic over into the uni and it would be easy. And I've always found tests, like I'm super blessed with a good memory. Like I can look at a page and memorize majority of stuff on it. So tests has never been an issue for me. And so what do? When I'm at uni, I decide to do a full-time job and then intern as well. So uni, full-time job, intern. And so I remember being like, okay, if I can squeeze enough work out of the day from when I wake up to where I go to sleep, then that'll be like epic and there'll be heaps of stuff that'll come to me. And it did. Like I got put in rooms with people that I probably shouldn't have based off my experience, which is um which was awesome at the time. And, again, it's just more evidence accumulating that if you work hard, things pay off. And so then when I left university, I got placed at managing a gym. And this is where I really touched into real time marketing. And before that, like I should have done a double degree in like psychology. I was researching it that much. Like I've always been fascinated by the psychology of people and how people interact and, groups and like all of that. And then being able to market that within a gym space in real time, day to day, it was fascinating for me. And so I fell in love with it and again, worked really hard. And within like 6 months, I was managing 4 gyms. And so, again, more evidence of this work hard, work hard, work hard, and you'll receive the benefit. And then shortly after that, I was promoted to the national level of the franchise. And again, like it just proved to me. But every year I would have these like 2 week burnouts where I would just be like dead for 2 weeks, not being able to do a thing. But, it was just like my little mini holiday. And so after that, use the same sort of method to grow through businesses. And it wasn't until we moved to Australia when my something happened when we had my second son, and something clicked in me, and I felt this shift. And then we moved to Australia for this big CMO role that was running an international fitness brand all over the world, and I was running like all 4 brands. based in like, sorry, all for distribution channels, social media, websites. I was running it all, um, and I would leave in the morning and be gone for like 10 hours a day, and it just didn't feel right. And intuitively, I just thought, yeah, this can't be the way. And my partner Cass had been telling me a whole bunch of times, like, why don't you try like living with a bit more intention and being a magnet, and things may come to you, because I'm seeing a lot like that girl can manifest whatever she wants to her, and it's, and then I'm over here at this time like trying to wield things into existence and get all this stuff. But then Cass is just like, I'm going to go meditate and take it slow, and I feel like that's going to find me. And I would be like, okay. And it did though, and so after that, we decided to move back to New Zealand because it just got too much. I didn't want to be away from my kids, and I didn't want to be out of the house, and I didn't want to miss them growing up, and you know like miss all these little things. Like I would go to work in the morning and come home at night, and my little boy was like a completely different person, and it just sucked. And I was like, nah, that's not right. And so I was like, let's move back to New Zealand. We've got a second Bubba's on the way. Um, let's do that. And then I was applying for jobs, and there was some big CMO roles that I was going for, and like, with huge salaries that I could have comfortably like walked into and ran, but it just didn't feel right again. Like it just felt like I was going into the exact same situation, trading time, which I didn't want to anymore. And so ripped the band-aid off, came back to New Zealand with absolutely nothing, stayed in mum's lounge, and um, just let it sit and slow down for like 2 weeks. And we just sat and we're like, should we just push play on it? And then I was like, yeah, this is the hardest I'll work the last time. And I spent 2 days locked in mum's shed, building a website, building out the onboarding and doing everything. And we launched Nugget Creative and our marketing agency. And we got so many inquiries in that first month that was so amazing. But it was hard because we had to chase the processes in the back, and we had just literally created a business that had just given us job a job. And so we had to then slow it down again and look at the business and be like, okay, who isn't aligning with our purpose on this? And we ended up letting like 3 clients go in that first 3 months because they just weren't aligning with us and where we wanted to take it. And so yeah, and chasing the hustle and whatnot. And then we move on to chapter two, which was like, this was the shift, and this was where it started to happen. And I was like, I have done this my entire life. I've identified as the hardest worker in the room, and like I have identified as like being like, you will never outwork me, and that is my thing. um and then going from that to just completely like having withdrawal symptoms from this hustle of being like, I need to work, like things aren't coming out, I need to do more. And but then transitioning into this hustle to being way more having way more intention in what I did and taking it slow. And it took time, it was hard. Like it took about a good 6 months of running the business before I fully felt like I could relax in the morning. It did feel like a withdrawal off of like a hearty drug. Like I'm sure I got sweats. And this goes into chapter two, and it's like I had always been about wanting to meditate, and I thought that would be a good idea, but I'd always think, oh no, I'll do it later. I'll do it later. When I'm a bit older. But then one morning I woke up and I was like, no, okay, this feels like this is the intention. Like if this woo woo Cass is going to, sit down and meditate and get all these opportunities, I'm going to try that. And I remember the first time I started meditating in my morning routine, I felt so uncomfortable. And I think I meditated for like 2 minutes, probably. Yeah, like 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, you fuck. Instead, I just went out for a run and I went back the next morning. And I was like, oh, yeah, 5 minutes. Sweet. Yeah, well, at least it's getting better. And then I went out for a run. And then eventually, now I'm at a point where I can sit in a room cross legged for like 30 minutes. And the benefit of having this, like tapping into whatever it is, um, has been incredible. Like the opportunities that have been presented from the first 2 weeks of meditating back then were crazy. Like it was absolutely crazy. And I started documenting that journey. And that leads us to chapter 3 was like building a brand that matters. So when we started Nugget, we saw a lot of marketing agencies that harped on about ROI and all of this like gross, like surface level stuff. And you never really understood the brand. And we were always like, oh, they should go deeper on that subject. Like, who owns this company? What do they do when are they happy there? Like, and this came from hours and hours of like analyzing all these marketing agencies, and we're like, okay, well, our point of difference is going to be we're just going to document like our lives and how I'm going through this like transitional phase of getting out of this hustle life and stuff, and I'm going to be vulnerable, and I'm going to show things and talk about things that why people, like, I was striving for people to be like, why the fuck is he talking about that when he runs a marketing agency? This isn't content for a marketing agency. He should be telling me about the latest ROI he got on this campaign with these clients. And I was like, nah, because in myself, I don't deal with companies that I don't trust, and trust comes from being vulnerable. So I was like, I'm going to hone in on that. And yeah, I started documenting the journey and building a brand to me that mattered to me, and slowly saw that transitioning out of this hustle life was about um, going from like wielding things into existence to then turning into a magnet where things just show up. And it's been a beautiful journey, and we're only just getting started. And it's incredible. The biggest thing for me about documenting this journey is the incredible personal growth it takes to show up on camera. And that's like, I work with a whole bunch of clients on social media, consulting them, and the majority of them, all they want is like to breathe confidence into them, because it's so scary to talk about your childhood trauma, or talk about things with your family, or talk about like the struggles you're going through on a day-to-day basis. And that's the beautiful thing about content, and that's what I'm trying to show through my content, is like, it's not all sunshines and fucking rainbows. It is hard, but when you fully stop looking for all this external reality to pull into you, and you start going inwards and internalizing these things, and understanding that everything that you want is already in you, that's where the true change happens. And I've seen that in myself, and I've only just begun this. Like, we're 6 months in, I suppose, of the business is 12 months old. I'm 6 months in of like living with intention, and it's a beautiful journey, and it's only going to grow. And this is where this long form content comes in, is like, now I can sit down with you guys on a weekly basis and discuss the week, discuss um, maybe one week we'll be discussing social media trends and how that's impacting what other people are putting out. We may be like deep diving on some stories, or we might just be sitting down having a yarn doing this. And I am excited to have you here, and I thank you for your attention. And I know your intention is the most costly currency there is nowadays. So I am truly grateful for you showing up and being here, and I want to wish you the best week ahead.